Namaste and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kababayan, Kayo show. I'm Sabrina Salas Matanane, filling in for my dear sweet auntie, Sally Aquino. She asked me to step in for her for the next several weeks while she attends to some business matters. And of course, there's nothing I wouldn't do for Auntie Sally and any of the Golden Girls. So here I am joining all of you this morning. It has been a while since I have been in a studio to actually host a show. Matter of fact, it's going to be almost a year since I resigned from my former job in the news business and decided to run for public office. Obviously, we didn't win, but I'm still standing. I still have a voice, and today I plan on speaking. And as you know, there has a lot to talk about. There's just so much that has happened since January's inauguration of our elected leaders. Let's see, dilapidated schools. I was just at Southern High School for my son's basketball game, albeit I went only to the gym, but I was so disappointed at what I saw when I was driving up. I drove by the baseball field, the track, I think it was another baseball field. The grass was just so overgrown. The bleachers clearly had not been water blasted in such a long time. They were black. There was algae, as you can see on your screen. I mean, come on, I thought we the people are paying for grass cutting services. I'm sorry, kids, that we aren't doing good by you. However, I do look forward to seeing how Senator Chris Barnett's first two public laws will pan out and hoping they won't be thrown to the side like former Senator Bob Klitsky's Every Child Deserves an Adequate Public Education Act. And while we can talk all day about the problems at our schools, I do want to give a huge shout out to former Guam Education Board Chair and a parent with children attending public schools, Mark Mingiola. I saw on social media that he organized a cleanup at Agata Johnston Middle School, where over 40 volunteers showed up, some from mayor's offices, GovGuam agencies, UOG, the school community. They were water blasting, bush cutting. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up where apparently our government has fallen short. It blows my mind how we can have $1 billion budget for the entire government of Guam, and yet we still can't get things done. Can't even ensure that grass is cut. We still haven't figured this out on how to maintain our schools, provide quality health care. And what about crime, public safety? Do you feel safe? But this leads me to what I really wanted to talk about, and that is just the insanity, the craziness of what happened during session or emergency session. There were so many sessions. What a remarkable letdown on the failure of an override of 2 bills that were vetoed by the governor, both of which would have ensured transparency and accountability when it comes to the construction of the $1 billion medical complex near Eagles Field in Manila, the location of which has been opposed by the Guam Medical Association and the ancestral landowners of that property. The author, Speaker Therese Terlahi, has maintained that it would not have stopped the lease, but rather made the meetings, the negotiations, and lease public, and all other negotiations of federal leases financially obligating you and I, the people of Guam, going forward. Do you believe it would have stopped a new hospital to be built and the legislature interfering with executive branch functions? Or do you believe several of our senators failed us to speak up for us, to fight for the people of Guam? Here's a recap of some of the statements on session floor on the debate and vote on Bill 12 and 13.
I am glad that this legislature is standing up. I am glad that I hope we're not going to put up anymore with being mere subjects.
The military has offered us a win-win deal. They are telling us, the people of Guam, if we build a table, they will cook us a Thanksgiving dinner. This is a win-win situation for the island, and I do find it to be an anti-military obstructionist post to put these aspersions on the character of the military that is here to do services to us.
I have never worked, I've never seen, observed any governor who did not want to indebt our people for any amount not want to stand and not want to be able to discuss in detail what they would like to do, except this one.
I just want to, the governor considered this scenario. If this lease were between the federal government and the Bank of Guam, if you were still president, and the lease is between the feds and the Bank of Guam, will you still sign this lease with these provisions? Your board of directors want you to do so? Your stockholders want you to do so? If these provisions exist, I don't think so.
I just want to do what is right. You know, how about optimism? Everybody talking down this hospital. As leaders, I think we should offer people optimism. Someone wants to build you a hospital and get the federal government to help pay for it. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing.
I'm embarrassed today. I'm embarrassed that we can't even agree that we can do our job, which is, again, not to kill a hospital deal, not to be anti-military, but to make sure our people are getting the deal of a lifetime. That's what our job is. It's very simple. We're not here to stand up for anybody but our people, the people of Guam.
I would remind the people of the body that they have just saddled the next generation and the generation following that and the generation following that with $1 billion of debt, and they didn't even bother to look at the note they just signed. They wouldn't do this in their personal life, but they'll do it with somebody else's money, that being the taxpayers.
I think this is one of those defining moments. And if you're uncomfortable, by all means, feel the uncomfortableness, because you've put our people in a very uncomfortable situation, obligating them. And yet you didn't take the time to ensure how their money
Point of
is
order,
being
time,
properly-
Madam Speaker.
Excuse me, Madam Speaker.
State your point of order.
Time is up, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
I can appreciate that, but it's a courtesy to allow people to finish their comments without constantly interjecting. All of us can see the time. I didn't realize one colleague was the official timekeeper to harass people on the floor. With that, Madam Speaker, I have no further comments.
Bill 12 is not about the hospital. It's about the authority of the government of Guam to enter into long-term leases with federally controlled land. It is about federal land, Guam's unique history of massive land takings, and legislative authority to control expenditures and the debt that we put on future generations. I'm saddened by the flip-flopping on measures to ensure transparency and public input and huge financial obligations of the government of Guam.
Following the failed override attempt on Bill 12 and 13, the governor claimed a victory, stating Guam wins and that the people of Guam are one step closer to a state-of-the-art medical complex built in partnership with the federal government. She thanked the senators who voted against the override, Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes, Senators Will Parkinson, Roy Kanata, Joe San Augustine, Dwayne San Nicholas, and Amanda Shelton. A bill signing ceremony for the 22% raises law at Government House, she came to their defense.
We have heard the opposition talk about them as the puppets of Adler. I have to say that is so far from the truth. How do you think I'm going to pull the strings of Senator Will Parkinson? He has a mind of his own. He has a philosophy of his own. Senator Amanda, she's been there even before I was there as governor, and she speaks her own mind. She doesn't always vote with the administration. I know this because we debate sometimes, but I respect that. Senator Roy Roy Canapes knew, but boy, does he have words to say. And Senator Joe, he's the expert in money. He advises me how to spend the money. How is that a puppet? And you know Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes too. She has a mind of her own. So does Senator Dwayne Nicholas. There are new ones. There's 3 new ones that are independent thinkers. And so because the opposition can't figure out how to deal with these people, the easiest is, oh, they're puppets of Adler. I do not spend my time pulling the strings of these people. I have more work to do than that. So when you hear that out in the public, please know that it is the furthest from the truth.
The celebration on the failed override attempt was short-lived as Attorney General Douglas Moylan, tasked to review the unsigned lease, issued his opinion. According to the unsigned lease agreement, the contractual terms are as follows. The duration of the lease is for 50 years with a 25-year option for a total lease duration of 75 years from March 2023 to March 2073 for land in Barrigada and Mangilao, or, as we all know, the land near Eagles Field. The lease payments shall be at fair market value but are deferred for the first 10 years if the government keeps within the deadlines to construct and operate the facility and or provide what's called in-kind services. But those in-kind services, according to the AG's opinion, have not been agreed to in the unsigned lease. The scope of the lease project is Attachment B, which is not identified and use specific. Damages are in the context of not completing the project. And finally, the purpose of the lease is to build a hospital and medical facility for use by the people of Guam and to benefit the military service members or dependents with a takeover clause for full use by the military in a war or national emergency. According to the AG's opinion, the hospital and medical lease project will cost over $700 million and will be the only replacement facility to GMH. The legal issues the AG cited: non-compliance with federal and local laws and not involving the Guam legislature in authorizing and appropriating funds for the lease, and the lease for Guam's hospital medical complex precluding access by the people of Guam. Following the AG's opinion, the governor issued her statement. Quote, "From the start, we encouraged the Attorney General to engage us on any legal concerns that may have emerged during his review process. Understanding that his office is understaffed and overwhelmed, we made additional support available to him. Unfortunately, he did not avail himself of these resources. We are confident that had he responded to our frequent requests for updates during his review, we could have resolved many of the issues raised in his ultimate reply. While we are taking care to diligently review the issues he raised, none of the issues appear to constitute actual impediments to entering the lease. We remain open to discussing these issues with the Attorney General at his option. However, it is likely that a legal remedy will be necessary to effectuate the Organic Act mandate that the governor shall establish public health facilities, including hospitals, and the Supreme Court of Guam's determination that the legislature has no place in negotiating lease agreements, which is necessarily an executive function. As for those who have opposed this lease from the start, no one should celebrate the increased likelihood that we will lose Eagles Field for a second time. Tragically, the only thing delayed today is a state-of-the-art hospital we all need. Yet not a single senator who opposed our plan has presented a solution of their own. That might be good politics, but it certainly won't make anything better for everyday people." End quote. Now that we've got you all caught up with session and the Eagles Field lease, we're going to speak with Attorney General Douglas Moylan, who's going to join us live in studio after the break.
Island Family Pharmacy is committed to providing care and service that goes beyond dispensing prescriptions. We offer personalized services focused on quality care, outstanding customer experience with prompt and professional attention. At our pharmacy, you are family.
Kandit News will soon be reaching a milestone 5th year since it was established in 2018. We are a platform for advocacy journalism. We expose corruption, fight against the sexual exploitation of children, and tend to support the underdog, the underprivileged, and those trying to find a path from addiction. With over 50,000 followers, we offer advertising opportunities for both large and small businesses. We offer competitive rates that are often well below what other advertising agencies charge their clients. Give us a call today.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Kababayan Kayo show. I'm Sabrina Salas Matanane, filling in for Sally Aquino, who is taking care of some personal matters. And as you can see, joining me live in studio is Attorney General Doug Moylan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for taking time to come here and being with me today. First time back in an actual studio in almost a year, and so much has happened. So I wanted to talk to you about first, because there's so much to talk about, is your opinion. And have you had an opportunity since you issued it to actually speak with the governor or Adelu?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
They're very gracious. You know, the governor is trying to find a way to provide the hospital for our community health services. Unfortunately, the manner in which her attorneys had advised her, in our opinion at the AG's office, it was just, it screamed out violations of the Organic Act as well as Guam Supreme Court precedent. So we couldn't approve it, but you know, the governor's trying to provide something that she's responsible for, working with our other government officials to provide health care.
And I think nobody is against the building of a new hospital. We all want a new hospital, but it's just the manner, right, in which the governor's trying to achieve this through this closed-door meetings for this Guam Medical Complex. And so let's just take us through your main problems with this lease, unsigned lease.
Well, the primary one was, well, I guess if you go back a little bit, the first problem was she didn't have the right lawyers providing her legal advice when she was going through the negotiating phase. And as I mentioned, the key error in the lease was that it did not provide for the legislative branch, which has the appropriations authority and responsibility in our Organic Act, right? We have the three branches of government. As the Guam Supreme Court has several times said throughout the decades, that whenever a governor wishes to commit the taxpayers and the people of Guam to funding requirements, the governor needs to ask the legislature for the funding, because as you know, the speaker has pointed out, that is the main function of the legislature, is an appropriations. They call it the power of the purse. The power of the sword is the governor. So the governor can put together the hospital the way that she sees it, but must go over across the street to ask the legislature for the funding in order to effectuate her vision. And in this case, that's just part of our check and balance system. You know, Civics 101, you have three branches of government, and then you have each function of government, which is to check the other branch. And when it comes to committing us to potentially over $700 million to $1 billion in taxpayer expenditures, you need the legislature. That's just one problem with it. Other things was, it didn't look like it was a complete lease because the in-kind consideration was missing, let alone the actual project scope. how many floors, how big, what was the medical campus going to look like. And that's part of the drafting requirements in the law, that you must make sure that you actually have an agreement that is finalized between the parties to a certain extent. You can have some open ends on it, but they have to at least have the essence of what the agreement was. We found a problem with that. There's also other issues dealing with, this was not just a ground lease, it was a joint venture with the federal government and the local government to have a joint use facility. So, versus the governor just signing off on a lease to use the property. So you had triggers in it that we don't pay the federal government for 10 years, provided that we built the facility in 10 years. And again, what is the facility? We don't know how big it is. We don't know how expensive it's going to be. Those were all kind of open-ended questions that just screamed that the legislature needed to be involved in it, because they're the ones that are going to fund this whole venture. And then one of the most, I think, the disconcerting things about it was that although the Organic Act talks about the governor's authority over health services, the project wasn't for the people of Guam. And that's where we looked at that there's a paragraph in there that was built that in times of war or national emergency, the federal government, and they didn't identify who exactly in the federal government would exercise that provision, could literally kick out the people of Guam from this facility, which means that the people of Guam would not have a locally funded, taxpayer-paid hospital during whatever period that the federal government decided was a national emergency or time of war. Now, those are the things that why a signature could not be put on that document at this time. And I say that because if the governor wishes the assistance of the AG's office, we're more than willing to help her. In the statutes, the Attorney General's signature is required before documents like this can be approved by the government of Guam. And it's a safety check to make sure that documents like this don't end up in court. And again, that's another function of an attorney. Our role as the AG is to ensure that we don't end up in court, to provide the best legal advice as possible, using the Supreme Court decisions and the court decisions to kind of map out where this could go if you don't put certain things in. If you don't make the contract clear, if the contract isn't enforceable, you're going to end up in court. And then the taxpayer is going to be paying it from all ends, from lack of a hospital to paying the lawyers to potential damages because the contract was unenforceable or was breached. That's how I see our role as the elected AG's office.
And so when you met with the governor after you found that the unsigned lease was unenforceable, what sort of discussions did you have? What was the remedy so that you would be able to sign off on it?
Well, in terms of our communications, I try to keep things confidential between us because it helps us discuss issues. But I will say that communication was in terms of, I wished you would have talked to me before they came to the agreement. And again, on March 14th, I was given a document which basically was not able to be changed and under the Admiral's timeframes. So I was put in a difficult position that either I sign off on something that we did not negotiate and which had certain fundamental problems, or we go back to the drawing board. And I'm hoping that the administration takes that approach, goes over, talks to the speaker and the senators to try to find a properly crafted healthcare services agreement.
Well, one of the things the governor had mentioned in her statement after you issued your opinion was the fact that she said that, well, she offered, her people to meet with you, to talk to you, to address any of your concerns during that review period. Mm-hmm. Did you take advantage of that? Did you?
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
I had my chief deputy communicate with her legal office. Unfortunately, you can't just talk away problems in the lease. Mm-hmm. If the law is the law, we have to follow it. And that's why I say the role of an attorney is not just to rubber stamp what the client or an official of the client says for us to do. And that's always been my approach in my 30 years as an attorney, is to provide as much guidance to the client as possible. But when it comes down to my role as the chief law enforcement officer on Guam, I have also responsibility to the taxpayers, the people, the legislature, as well as to the courts, that the decisions that the court makes are properly followed. And on this case, the end result was signing a document. Mm-hmm. Now, if they asked us to look at it and then let's further negotiate, sit down with the federal government and talk about these provisions that we need to have modified or changed in order to comply with what the people of Guam, the legislature, and the governor wish, we're more than anxious to do that. And even from this day forward, I'm more than willing to sit with the governor in that vein, in that idea. But I really think that the governor and the legislature, they need to come to an understanding. They need to bring peace between their roles, because I'm just shocked that any attorney would have approved that for the governor. And the governor's not an attorney, and is not held to know all the laws as attorneys do. But she was given bad advice on pushing forward that type of document. And even the admiral, to his credit, he's not an attorney, but at the same time, he's negotiating for the U.S. government. Right. I was more concerned also with the fact that we're a U.S. territory and that we're building the hospital for the federal government. Now, that's a policy consideration for the legislature and the governor to decide. But after 50 years, the hospital goes to the federal government. We're going to have to go build another hospital after 50 years. Of course, there's a 25-year option that the government of Guam can exercise, making it for 75 years. But when you look at the four corners of the document, you don't own it. At the end of the day, after the taxpayers have toiled for 50 years to pay this thing down, usually you want ownership like a house. It's yours after the time. This one, that whole facility goes to the federal government. So I'm concerned that with the federal government, its responsibilities to Guam, to our people, as we are a territory, we're not a state of the United States. We're operating under the Constitution's requirement that Congress protect, administer, and fund the territory of Guam in this case. But for them to be having us build them a facility, when they print money, they generate trillions of dollars, and the way that in the pandemic, how they were just giving money away, to have the people of Guam do this, it's just kind of shocking. But of course, that's not a legal determination. That's just kind of like explaining it to the client that, do you realize you're not going to own this at the end of the lease period, and that the people are going to have to go find another hospital. You know, at least with GMH, we can fix it. You know, I know there's arguments about, you know, the structure and things like that, but it's ours as a people of Guam. You're not going to have the federal government by contract saying, get out because we need this for a national emergency. So, yeah, those are a few of the things that we were concerned about at the AG's office, and, you know, hopefully, constructively, we get that hospital that everybody can agree upon. This is a government. We're stewards of the people's money. We're stewards of the trust of the people. So not any one official in an American form of government, democratic form of government, can make decisions. And the governor needs to work with the legislature to come up with a good health facility that everybody can live with. And I don't want to have to go to court to defend a document that I think is indefensible. It was unenforceable. As the Supreme Court has said, it is a nullity in the Pangilinan versus Gutierrez GRRP case, one of the two that we were relying upon with the Guam Supreme Court. And that's after 10 years, millions of dollars, I'm sure, in legal fees and lost productivity. That was that waste-to-energy project. So,
you know, the one thing I've heard is that it's free, right? Something to that extent that I heard that
they were trying to use the in-kind consideration attachment.
Right.
Again, it goes back to, was there a contract? Because there was no in-kind consideration. It was supposed to be further negotiated. So from a lawyer's point of view, one of the key provisions on any contract is, what is it that's being passed between the parties? What is it that we're agreeing to? You pay, I receive, I give you, you get. In this case, the in-kind consideration that was being talked a lot about wasn't agreed to. The federal government could literally say, nope, we don't want to deal with in-kind consideration. We disagree with your proposal. Therefore, we're just going to hold you to paying for the facility. And that screams of legislature. The annual payment is about $1 million a year. It's 900-some thousand, and it escalates as time goes on. The contract doesn't provide for any payment immediately. You wait 10 years, and if the in-kind consideration... This is the construction
period.
Right, right. 10 years to build the project.
Yeah.
And if the project isn't completed in 10 years, or arguably, if the in-kind consideration isn't, the terms aren't agreed to, you're going to be paying the federal government for different, for all those 10 years period, which again, okay, but get the legislature to agree to it. The legislature must know what it's going to obligate we as taxpayers to be paying for.
So have you had any discussions since your opinion, since you issued your opinion with the legislature, Speaker Lahi, or
In general terms, yes. But I think the legislature is in the position that they are waiting for the governor to make the approach to them, because right now I didn't ask to do this opinion. I didn't want to do the opinion. I got pulled into it because it's one of the duties of this Attorney General, and I issued it. I did not sign it because of the reasons, and spent a lot of time making sure that those reasons were very clear, separating public policy from legality. The legal side of it is this agreement enforceable? And then the public policy is like things like, should we have a hospital? Should we have this facility that's only where we're going to lose it at the end? That's all the legislature and the governor's decisions to make. So the senators have in tangential ways, individual kind of contacted me, but it's more of the opinion speaks for itself.
So is it true that there is a deadline for the governor to sign it, your understanding?
It's the deadline that the Admiral has stated. If the Admiral wishes to change his position, I think he may have come out as recently as yesterday on KUN maybe. I read an article that seemed to indicate that he'll have to talk to his superiors at the Department of Defense or State Department or wherever this document came from to decide what's their next move. So I think that it would be best to just bring everybody to the table, and especially we get our house in order. The government of Guam's negotiating team, like we do for the health insurance, figure out with both branches of government involved, the executive and the legislative, what agreement can we come to as a people of Guam on what we want for a facility. And it's not just funding it, because with that money, like your parents, they give you money, they expect certain things. The legislature can fund this, but obviously with the 15 of them, they're going to have to decide, is this the place to put it? Is this the size of the facility? How much do we want to spend on this? It's not in this agreement in terms of how big the facility is. That's another one of those glaring things. That attachment was empty in terms of how many floors is this hospital, how big is the medical campus, how much money is it going to be. We don't even know if we could build a facility in 10 years. With the military buildup going right now, how much is that going to cost us as a people with all the construction companies occupied helping out the military build their buildup? So, yeah, let's get our house in order first, I think. That would be my advice to the government clients, is that before we ask the federal government for anything, let's figure out, is this really what we want to do? So we're not wasting their time, and we can get a read from what really are they trying to do. I've been told that the Naval Hospital is only 42 beds. Yeah. That is woefully inadequate for the potential problems in our area of the world. We've got Taiwan that's constantly causing a cloud over Guam, and the danger that we face as a community and the fallout. We saw it in Vietnam, we saw it in the Korean War. Guam is the only fallback position, and we're going to be taking injured and wounded provided it doesn't go nuclear. So that's why I think that these guys are looking at this facility. The people in Department of Defense realize Guam is the only place to receive any injuries, and we saw this with the Roosevelt, the carrier when it came in. What is it, 1,000 people on a carrier, if not under that? They didn't have a facility for it. 42 beds, they had to put them in tents and then share our facilities.
Well, we are going to take a quick break and continue our discussion with Attorney Douglas Moylan in a moment.
Kandit News will soon be reaching a milestone 5th year since it was established in 2018. We are a platform for advocacy journalism. We expose corruption, fight against the sexual exploitation of children, and tend to support the underdog, the underprivileged, and those trying to find a path from addiction. With over 50,000 followers, we offer advertising opportunities for both large and small businesses. We offer competitive rates that are often well below what other advertising agencies charge their clients. Give us a call today.
Island Family Pharmacy is committed to providing care and service that goes beyond dispensing prescriptions. We offer personalized services focused on quality care, outstanding customer experience with prompt and professional attention. At our pharmacy, you are family.
Good morning and welcome back to Kababayan, Kayo Show. I'm Sabrina Salas Matanane with Attorney General Douglas Moylan, live here at Kandit. If any of you have any questions for the AG, please post it on Facebook, and we'll ask him what he has to say. I wanted to continue discussions on this unsigned lease, and we were talking about it during the break about this in-kind contribution. And I know you said it wasn't exactly in this lease, but what would that be? From your experience?
Well, because I don't understand exactly where the governor might have negotiated these or discussed it with the federal government and the admiral, I can only speculate that it probably is something non-monetary, that if the government of Guam makes the facility available to maybe, like for instance, the Osprey is referenced on the discussions and the public comment. The Osprey is a aircraft that can take a large number of occupants. So flying them in from different military areas, an aircraft carrier that might come over, and having our facility be available to patients from the federal government, whether it's, and I was hearing things like the veterans that are in need of services in the islands around us. That's a federal obligation, that they would come to this facility and probably offset what we owe them. But the devil in the detail was that there is no detail on what the in-kind agreement was going to be. And it dovetails back into, as an attorney, do you have an agreement? Well, if you can't agree to the in-kind contribution, then again, if the courts were to even enforce it, then who's paying for this annual lease payments? And that's required under the lease. They weren't giving this facility to us. They weren't saying that you can use this property for 50 years and build what you wish on it. It was a tit for tat. There was a quid pro quo that was clearly set forth in the agreement. That's why I say, on the one hand, it's a ground lease, but it's also a joint use agreement. So both sides were taking an interest in how the property was going to be used.
What happens if the governor signs it next week?
Well, I always think that in terms of the financing, the money is where it counts. I don't know who will finance any project if they do not have a fully signed agreement, or if the Attorney General has come out and said, issued an opinion that a bank cannot issue money on. When an Attorney General says that the lease is unenforceable, most banks, all federally insured ones, probably would not be able to loan a penny on it. So, but again, my position is not to be the antithesis or to stop this from going forward. My position is, as a counselor, I'm recommending things. If you wish us to sign off on it, for me as the elected Attorney General to sign off on it, I have a responsibility as well to my constituents to ensure that their voting for me has that seal of this AG will ensure the laws are being followed. So that's how I'm coming from this.
Do you plan on meeting with her or anyone from Guadeloupe again?
I am
any meetings planned?
24/7 available for our governor of Guam. She is the elected leader of this island, and to all elected officials, I'm always, I give them my cell numbers, my contact information, and I always try to get back to every elected official.
Are you prepared if some sort of legal challenge is filed?
Yes, we are prepared. I'm very comfortable with the way that the Supreme Court has decided that. And this isn't just our Guam Supreme Court. Our structure of government is modeled after the federal government. The Admiral, I believe, knew full well that whenever he asked for an aircraft carrier or anything, they have to go to Congress in order to get that approval. Our governor also, in order to commit the people of Guam to this type of expenditure for this purpose, needs to go to our legislature in order to approve it. So, but again, I'm hoping we can all work together. But the first step has to be between the governor and the legislature to talk. They need to just get together and do what the governor and I do. We sit down and we try to troubleshoot it. And I'll give her credit for, she was inquiring even before we met on March 14th on the formal type meeting with the Admiral present. Some concerns, and of course I didn't know what was going on, but I kind of threw out there, and she used to be my boss back in the 24th, 25th, 6th Guam legislatures. She was a senator there, so we know one another, and I respect our governor, and I hope that she can move forward to achieving her ends, but in our system of government, the way it's structured.
Like I said earlier, I think we all want and deserve, the people of Guam do deserve a new hospital. What are your thoughts, though, on the failed override attempt on Bill 12 and 13, the bills that would have opened these meetings up so people would be able to know what's happening in the discussions and negotiations regarding this lease?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that they had to go to the step of having to pass a law in order to do what the people have a right to do. To listen to their leaders as they make decisions that will affect their life and especially their pocketbook. Yeah. It's always in the money. How is the money being spent? Who's going to authorize it? So I believe that had that gone to court, they probably could have compelled it, somebody in the community. But why do you need to do that? And I took office in January. There haven't been really any complaints yet on closed-door meetings going on, and I welcome that anyone in the community that has concerns about that come to our office and we look at it. We are currently talking with individuals in our community about potential the port operations on how they've closed certain meetings and stuff like that. Those sorts of things is the duty of the Attorney General to enforce government officials to ensure the transparency as required by Guam law. On the other issues, I think the senators need to figure it out among themselves in terms of that law that was attempted to be passed to inform the governor what type of hospital was going to be constructed. It was going to come back to them anyways with the way that our office looked at it. And again, I refer to the Guam Supreme Court. You have to fund it. If you don't fund it, it's not going to be built. And if you do try to sign a contract, and some AG signed it, I don't care if the Pope signs that document. If they challenge it and you've got fundamental problems in that document, the courts are going to strike it. And our Guam Supreme Court has had no problem striking other contracts by governors when it violated and they respected the three branches of government. There's a separation requirement, and then there's a check and balance requirement. And those two concepts work together. And in this case, the AG's, this AG, I specifically recognized it and believed that I could not sign it. So hopefully we've avoided a big lawsuit if the governor wishes to work with the legislature for this particular project.
Well, let's move on to another topic, and I wanted to just get up to speed really on the status of your office. I hear a lot about people resigning, not having enough staff. So just to clear the air, clear the record, sure. Where are you with staffing at your office, and how hard of a time are you having in recruiting prosecutors?
Now, the old AG's office was literally thrown out by the people of Guam. They said they wanted a new direction. They wanted a toughest AG on crime. That's how I entered that office. I've broadened that to the toughest law enforcers. If you look at our emblem, it's specifically, we put the slogan in there. Those attorneys in the AG's office that do not see eye to eye with me, I welcome them to find a different employment. I'm in the process of refining the type of people that are working in that office, and we're mainly dealing with the attorneys when you're an attorney general. The staff we have no problem with. They come and go. We're hiring people daily on that. On the attorney basis, those are the people that have to fulfill the legal policies of that office. Those legal policies before January 2nd of this year were promises being made during the campaign. The freedom of speech that went on, this election that went on, I ran on a platform. My platform was to be the toughest AG on criminals. Crime was a big problem in our community. When I came into that office, the former AG only had 8 prosecutors protecting this island. Liz Anderson, had 21. That's usually the standard. Before I was the AG in 2003, she had about 21. When I came in again for this second term, it's at 8, and I believe it was 21, I was informed, was when about the number when Liz Anderson was there. So it's a distilling process. It's a refinement that's going on in the office. Guam has a problem with lawyers. We don't have enough lawyers in our community. The court's reacting to the indigent defense, not having enough private attorneys to provide for the those people that need criminal defense. But I'm not letting that stop me. We're recruiting off island. We're bringing them in. I'm going to bring up the numbers, but it's not just the numbers. It's going to be the quality of prosecutors, the quality of assistant attorney generals, their capabilities on writing good briefs, making sure that they follow the lead of the attorney general, because let's make no bones about it. This is an elected office. Politics is hand in hand with the attorney general. Commitments that I made will be done in that office, and if I have to show you the door, there is the door. I'm 30 years practiced as an attorney, 56 years old, and I don't want to deal with lawyers that don't want to follow instructions. I don't want to deal with lawyers that are incompetent. The team that I need in order to push our community's agenda, whether it's protecting them or ensuring that the hospital lease is properly reviewed or ensuring that the abortion case is properly represented, I will bring in the best and the brightest into that office, and we will work together to provide legal representation for this community. We're 4 months into it. There have been a lot of adjustments that are being made. We now have a government corruption division. So all these promises are being effectuated now, and I've got a good team. I've got a good team of deputies, and we're bringing in what's needed for the protection of this community.
Mm-hmm. How short are you guys, though? Are you short?
Well, we are not at the numbers that we need.
Yeah.
I believe
How
for
many do
purposes
you need?
of, well, prosecution again is the most important function I see in that office. I believe we may have about 13 or 14 now prosecutors. I have to bring it up to 21. That's the ideal number in my mind, but 21 good prosecutors. Because again, you can have 5 lawyers, but if you have 2 or 3 really good ones, they can do the job of 5 lawyers. So as has been in the news medias, the private bar saying, oh, how is he putting prosecutors in civil? Come on, guys. That's what you guys do every day. That's what I was doing 5 months ago. As a lawyer, you need to be able to handle civil and criminal. That's what we're trained as. So ideally, I probably am looking at getting 20 more lawyers, at least 20 more lawyers in that office. I think about 50 would be about where I want to be. I'm in the 30s, somewhere in the 30s right now. But again, if a brief is due or a deadline is required, we try to meet the challenge. Right. Civil Service Commission, we pulled back because that was like a small claims court setting temporarily. But we're still advising the cabinet for purposes of their actions on personnel matters. And also certain cases we're still handling with the Civil Service Commission, but we're treating it like a small claims court. You got non-lawyers on the board. The law allows for non-lawyers to help out these employees that are challenging their adverse actions. So,
I wanted to follow up on the homeless relocation initiative. We saw the removal, relocation of the homeless people in that encampment in Dededo, but I haven't really heard anything, a follow-up to that.
Right. The follow-up is that we're making sure that not only that first effort was a success, which I see it as all the parameters of what the goals that we were attempting to make were met. I'm getting a lot of inquiries on when is the next one. It's in the Lieutenant Governor's ballpark right now. The Lieutenant Governor controls the cabinet. The cabinet members in the government, the executive branch, are critical towards the success of a homeless relocation. The mayors, and this is a joint effort from the Mayor's Council, the Attorney General's Office, and the executive branch, the Governor and Lieutenant Governor. So with the first one, we learned a few things. It went rather well according to the parameters. The second one and those after that, again, we've left a message with the Lieutenant Governor. Whenever he's ready, we're standing by. So I think the people should start to inquire with the executive branch, Lieutenant Governor's office, on when he wishes to move forward.
But do you have an update on what happened to those people, the homeless
Yeah.
people there?
Well,
Where are they now?
The executive branch took care of I believe there was three. One of them was unfortunately arrested for drugs, post homeless encampment. The other two were being taken care of by the individual, I think it's Mr. St. Augustine, that was in charge, Roberts St. Augustine, for the homeless effort. So, and again, my contribution to this is that part of the team must be to get these people employed. Put them as part of our workforce that we need out there. There is a constant need for construction on their employees, their workers, their skilled laborers. We had the Department of Labor represented at our relocation site when we moved them from that mall location over to the flea market area. And all the social services were there that were helping them out. Of course, beforehand, we gave them notice. So those people that did not want to be part of the relocation, they left before. Because initially, when we had been observing it maybe a month before, there were about maybe 20 individuals. It went down to about 10 by the time that we had posted the notices. And then when we actually came there, I believe that there was about maybe five to eight. The number's a little bit skewed in my mind right now on how many actually were there. But one lady immediately, she was helped to go to a house. She wanted her property to be taken there. The Mayor Savares and the Vice Mayor Benavente were very helpful. They had all their people and equipment. They relocated them. Those people that remained, we asked them. We had the Guam Mass Transit, their buses there to relocate them. But we took them to the site first with the social services, get them signed up for welfare assistance, and look at all their other needs. But I made sure that there was an employment aspect to it too. Get them to start working. We're not here just to hand out, my perspective on it, we're not here just to hand out taxpayer dollars to you. We're here to get you back on your feet, to bridge your reunification with society. Stop living in the boonies and start living in our society. Unfortunately too, the people that were there were from very good families. You know, the family names, you kind of wonder, where's the support system that Guam has always relied upon? So.
Well, we're going to take one more break and we'll wrap up the show. Stay tuned.
Island Family Pharmacy is committed to providing care and service that goes beyond dispensing prescriptions. We offer personalized services focused on quality care, outstanding customer experience with prompt and professional attention. At our pharmacy, you are family.
Kandit News will soon be reaching a milestone 5th year since it was established in 2018. We are a platform for advocacy journalism. We expose corruption, fight against the sexual exploitation of children, and tend to support the underdog, the underprivileged, and those trying to find a path from addiction. With over 50,000 followers, we offer advertising opportunities for both large and small businesses. We offer competitive rates that are often well below what other advertising agencies charge their clients. Give us a call today.
Welcome back to the show. Doug, thank you so much for being with me today and giving us an update on the things that you're doing at your office, especially about this unsigned lease. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next week, and hopefully the legislature and the governor can come together and
Yes.
Talk, really.
Yes,
And
that's
so,
what we need.
Right? Yeah.
Cooperation in our government.
So before I let you go, what's the update with you moving the office to Kenya?
We have the bid period has closed. We have 2 bidders, and we're currently reviewing it. Our lease, I believe, expires in July, but we have a holdover provisions that allow us to go month to month after that. But in terms of our timing, we're on good time right now. We can do the relocation in phases from Tamuning over to Hagatnya, which is the seat of our capital and where the Attorney General's office should be.
Okay. And finally, how does it feel to be back?
You bring that you kill what you eat attitude into that office. In private practice, performance, your merit, your worth as an attorney was based upon how well you did in court, how well you served your clients. I'm trying to bring that back into the Attorney General's office. When I got in there was people weren't even showing up to work. It was a ghost town in our civil division. But right now, I'm bringing that standard back. They are professionals. They are my colleagues. I want to work with them, but they need to serve the people.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
again. And thank you all for joining us here on Kandit. I'll be back next week to fill in again for Auntie Sally. So happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And bye.